This first video is really going to give you a little extra information on how to use the timeline. First and foremost, let's go to the upper left corner. Keep this simple. There's a plus sign, which allows you to add a new video audio track. So if I click the plus, I have an option. Do I want to add a new video? Do I want to add a new audio? Now, generically, it will put in a name, but you can change this if you choose to. Likewise on the audio. So let's go ahead and add an audio track. We'll keep the generic name and hit add track. You will see the new track gets added in the downward. It'll keep adding below the last audio track. Likewise, let's go ahead and add a new video track and just hit add track. And you can see it goes above the topmost video track. Now, real simple. You want to get rid of these. You have a couple options here. That's what the trash can icon is for. And likewise, in this little drop down, there's also a delete track option. Let's go ahead and delete the track by clicking the trash can. And that's done. Now, any video or audio track can be renamed. So if you point to a name, it says click to rename, you can go ahead and just type in a different name for yourself. This would be great for identifying the different layers that you're using in your timeline. Next thing, you will notice that within the video track, you're going to have a little drop down. Now this really adjusts the height. The middle one is the size by default, but if you choose the top one, it'll shrink the timeline track down, so it gives you basically more area to use for the other tracks. But if you like the little medium size, you can go ahead and do that. Now I'm going to come down to this video one since I have a video on it, and I am going to increase the size, and you will notice that a video with audio also shows the audio track. So your preference when you're working. I'm going to go back to the middle. Then we have this little 3-button drop down. So a couple things you can do here. Here are the most common things. You want to lock the track. Clicking lock prevents you from making any edits. It can be very useful if a certain track is set in its timeline. I'm going to unlock the track. At the bottom, you'll see there's the delete track option that we talked about. Now, if there's audio on the track, choosing mute track will basically mute it so it's no longer being heard. Likewise, there is a hide track option. And what the hide track does is exactly that. If I play the video, it's no longer showing the text that I hid. I'm going to go back here and put back show track. One other one of interest in here is the show levels. Now, here's what show levels does. I'm going to go to the video 1 track, and I'm going to choose show levels. For each one, you see this little green bar at the top. And basically, if you choose one of the objects on the track, it allows you to change the opacity. And so if you bend it down, watching this track, you'll see how it's slightly fading out. That's allowing you to do it right on the timeline. So I'm going to go back and hide the levels. Now, likewise, you will notice up on the top here, we have an undo, Control Z, we have a redo, Control Y. Now, redo will only work if you undo. So if I click on this and delete the track, undo will bring it back, but redo says, hey, let's redo that last undo, just so you understand how those work. There is also a little snaps to clips to others in the timeline. So with this on, which is by default, if I drag another item in here, as I drag it, it's going to want to snap to the edge of other clips. You can see as I move it closer, it snaps in. Removing this allows you to customly place an item anywhere you want. Now, that could be very useful depending on what you want it to do, but most will have the snap option on. Last thing in the timeline, obviously, if you drag it or use your arrow keys to slowly nudge it, bottom right corner, you have the zoom. Now, the gray bar down here kind of indicates the level of zoom, and the bigger it is, the more zoomed, smaller everything appears on the timeline. So I'm going to come over here and I'm just going to drag it. You can see that when that gray bar gets smaller, it zooms in. Likewise, point to the minus, point to the plus. There are keyboard shortcuts. So I'm going to press the minus key and press the plus key. And you can see you can zoom in and out to whatever your preference is. So that are some of the basics on the timeline.